live with another episode of One-on-One Profiles with Audacity. In Audacity, I have amazing people with me. Usually it's a one-on-one, but here we're coming with the whole cavalry. We're bringing the muscles, literally. I got my friend Clint and my new friend Alan here. And today you see the title, VA Home Loans and Mortgages, What You Need to Know. Sadly, there is a misconception around everything real estate. You may have Googled something and somebody told you something and you're on a craze or you think you can't do it. We're going to touch on a lot of those things because, again, these two individuals here have a lot of information to share. But before all of that, these are not your average lenders and realtors, and they're veterans. First and foremost, I think we need to establish that. So I think it'll be better to introduce them, be able to have a conversation and really talk about what folks don't know. But before all of that, Clint, tell us a little bit about yourself, my brother. Tell us your times in service, what you've done, and we'll kind of go from there. And then we'll go over to Alan and kind of get his branch of service, what he's done, and we'll go from there.
Awesome, man. Thanks for having us on, DP, for one. So I did 22 years in the Air Force as a fireman. That's 8 or 9 deployments, PCS 7 times, and then retired about almost 4 years ago. Since retirement, we opened a CrossFit gym. We're about 90% military members here at the gym. And then jumped into the real estate stuff too. The gym and the real estate kind of just are my funnel and my clients. So on the real estate side too, I would say about 90% of those are also military. So it goes right into the VA stuff, working with Alan and whatnot on the VA loan side of the house. But I've personally used my VA 4 times. My VA loan 4 times, I think. And again, so since retirement, that's what we've been doing.
And it should be noted, again, I was blessed. For those that may have seen, I was in Colorado not too long ago, and I got a chance to go down to your new gym, and just literally before we started recording, saw a little bit of updates of where you're at now. Some things to note. One, Clint is competitive in his side of the house. He has literally competed, done some amazing things. It's by no chance or happenstance that he's positioned in a way where me and Alan had to put sweaters on, because it was just not going to be fair if we're out here in short sleeves.
Hilarious.
It's But one thing that's amazing is, and I want to highlight it because there's a good point here. You've recently competed and you've also hold a few little records. So I think that's also worth noting. What did you do a few weeks ago, my friend?
Thank you. So I competed at the national level for Olympic weightlifting, so the clean and the jerk and the snatch. Won it, so the national champ at my age and weight bracket. And then that qualifies for Worlds. So coming up, May 26th is the actual Worlds. This year they're doing it Zoom. Yeah. Because of COVID. It's supposed to be in Japan, but and then last year, I think to the record thing, I set the record for the clean and jerk on the national side too. So thanks for bringing that up, man. It's a pretty cool opportunity.
I think it's amazing. And again, this is literally for another conversation. What I love about these conversations is there's so much to unpack. But the fact is, this is not the topic for today. But Clint, I can't do none of that stuff. You don't understand. I'm disabled. I have some issues. You would never understand the issues I deal with, because you're a specimen of muscularity and pure health. You don't know what it's like to be a disabled veteran.
Yeah, you're correct. I am currently, I think when I retired, they had me at 220% of my disabilities. I obviously retired with 100%. Like you and I talked last time, DP, I have a pretty serious breathing issue. Like I only exhale at 60%. So we deal with that stuff. I have a herniated disc in my neck, my back from 20-something years of being a fireman in the Air Force. So it's all doable, and we all do. We all carry something, some kind of weight, some kind of deployment-related something, some type of injury. We work through it. Like I said, I can't breathe for much, but I CrossFit every day, and we do the best we can to work through it. So I do totally understand that side of the house, and I know Al does as well.
Yeah, and I think it's good to just note, because again, it's like, we're gonna meet the realtor, we're gonna meet and talk about those things, but before all that, you're a veteran. You understand disability, you understand setbacks, you understand that. So it gives a context where you're just not the guy trying to flip a house. Even how you're using, your CrossFit gym. Like if someone works with you on the real estate side, they get membership to your location. And literally, it's in the recession, in a COVID pandemic, and all that, you grew because you built the community, which I really love. And I think it just helps people to understand the person behind, the success story, because it's easy to just dismiss and say, you have it all going on. There's no way I could ever do any of those things. False. Every single thing Clint has done, you can literally do the exact same thing and arguably a little bit more, except wear that shirt the way he's doing it, because, me and Alan have to sit here. And which brings me to you, Alan. Tell us a little bit about yourself, brother, your branch of service, when you served, and, kind of what got you into the game, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, brother. Thanks for having me on here. This is kind of cool, and, just so everyone knows, I did join Clint's gym, and I haven't gotten any bigger yet, but he says that's because I'm not going.
Yeah, his problem is he joined up and only came twice.
Oh, it's not one of those memberships where you just sign up and get the benefit.
I did 4 times. I did go 4 times. I did. I'm going tomorrow.
Mañana.
So, DP, he said he was sore, so he had to take a little time off.
That was 2 months ago.
Months ago, bro. But he'll come back tomorrow.
No, anyways, I did about 19 years in the Air Force. I actually left a little early due to some family issues on my wife's side. So I took an early retirement. Cost me a chief stripe, but that's okay. I was a medic primarily, so Clint and I kind of, we share that too, always run into the scene. I get there faster than Clint, though, because I'm a runner.
Yeah. He's got me on that one, DP.
But no, kind of like Clint said, lots of deployments, downrange, lots of PCS, and I think we moved about 7 or 8 times. I've used my VA home loan 7 times now for sure. And, how I got into banking was a little unique in 2014. I was like a lot of military members. You're a master of everything, but you're qualified in nothing. Mm-hmm. So I interviewed with a small bank, and they said, "Hey, we like your attitude. We think that we can't teach attitude, but we can teach you everything else." So in 2014, I went into banking, and I've been doing it ever since. Whether it's mortgages or commercial lending or whatnot. And we just moved back to Colorado a couple of years ago. We were in Buffalo, New York, freezing our asses off. And we decided to come back out here. And, you guys talked about, broken bones and disabilities. And Clint knows he makes fun of me, but I got rods holding arms together. And some of my challenges.
Ask him to bend his wrist real fast.
Yeah, that's it.
That's why he can't do a front squat. Got it. It's
it. Yeah.
You got to do one of these bits. You can't do the under. That's what it is.
Yeah.
Well, I found if I sit on the couch,
we'll work with his.
Oh, wait a second, everyone. We usually wait to drop nuggets till after, but Alan's about to drop a quick nugget for those out there. What about the couch?
If you sit on that, you don't have to worry about all that stuff that Clint worries about. I can watch it.
Knowledge bomb.
Yep.
Drop a solid knowledge bomb on.
Thank you all for tuning in. This has been One-on-One Profiles on Audacity. You don't need anything else. But I really, I love that, Alan, because I think it's amazing, just your journey, right? So you both have similar journeys. I love the fact that you're both you're disabled veterans. You did your time. You've done stuff, and I think for veterans, we take things lightly. We have our humor. We poke at each other. But what you both have done, for context, Clint on his side, and this is why we want to have this conversation this way, because it's for a reason. We have it down: VA home loans and mortgages, right? Some people say, well, I want to buy a home, but I have no clue how the whole mortgage side of the house works, and what about the real estate side of the house? So to Clint's point, being a realtor and Alan working on the finance side, I think it's a great conversation because you can literally cover all bases and how you all kind of work together. Alan, so you, one question I would have immediately is, how did you guys meet?
So we teach a lot of classes to veterans. We have what they call VA boot camps, and I know later you'll show the website. We'll show where those are. And we have free credit repair programs for veterans. And anyway, we taught a realtor class, and I sit in on every single one of them, and I answered a question for Clint.
Oh, wow.
That was it. And then afterwards, we kind of followed up, and then, I came down to the gym and met with him, and yeah, we just kind of clicked because, we have, like you say, similar story, similar passion for helping people. Mm-hmm. And since then, we are just killing it for veterans in Colorado, just killing it. And I'll throw a bone out there for Clint. Realtors matter. There's young people who are pre-approved with other realtors, and Clint and I have probably closed 25 or 30 transactions in the same time that those people are looking for homes.
Wow.
It matters.
Mm-hmm.
It does. Yeah. So yeah, I love this dude, man. We text at night and shit, and I'm gonna take him out snowmobiling as soon as he's done with Worlds, and we're
wife gets mad at Al, like, will you quit texting him?
Like, for crying out loud, what are you guys still talking about here? It's all business.
Al, for crying out loud.
We're talking about guns last night. That's what we was talking about last night.
Yeah, last night was real. That was about hunting and guns, real man shit.
Yeah. No, I love it. So, Alan, one question off the bat. I guess I'll ask you, Clint, first, and then you, Alan. On the real estate side of the house, what is one of the biggest myths that you would see or have heard that most veterans have out there? That in your experience, it's like literally, if you had to say maybe like one or two, whatever they may be, that you have seen time and time again, like, for Christ's sake, if you just knew this, boom, what's one of the biggest myths off the bat on the real estate side of the house?
Yeah, and Al would probably back it up. It's cost associated with getting into a house. Like, I don't think you understand literally what it takes to get into a house. Like, how much dollars, like, what does that dollar sign look like? We all think 10 or 20% or 20, 30 grand or something. Totally not. And Al and I don't know if we'll let the cat out of the bag now, but we're working on something big too to even cover that little portion of what it actually costs to get into a house.
Wow.
We're looking to try and do something big for our vets to cover that. So we're not there yet with it. So I don't know how deep we'll get into it, but that would be the one for me, man. It's just literally like, in my mind, I did 15 years before I bought my first house. I was overseas a bunch, but I didn't understand it. I didn't know what the VAs, like, I didn't know what that meant. Like, there's no way you get in a house for zero down.
Yes.
And then that other cost associated, because there's a little bit. But
yeah. And on your side, what's one of the biggest things you would say that you've seen that's, I guess, one of the biggest myths on the finance side? Because, okay, I talked to Clint. I found something nice. We're looking at houses, but now here comes the dreaded back work, right? The pre-approval, the finances, all those type of numbers on the lending side. What would be one of the biggest myths that you've seen?
Well, we chatted about this before we started, DP. It's rated about 10% of veterans use their VA home loan ever. That's it. And I can tell you that, the two biggest reasons are, one, it's not your Montgomery GI Bill. It never expires, and you can use it 1,000 times. So
So if you're gonna just come in here and dropping knowledge bombs, we got to slow you down here. So go back. One, there's no time limit to this, and it is different because, again, hey, all I know is my first sergeant told me, right? Hey, first sergeant, I got out of service. Go use your GI Bill. Go to school, kid. Got it. Snot nosy 4. Did my 4 years. I'm out. Whatever the case may be, or did my 20. I got my GI Bill. Went to school. That's all that I have. I didn't use the VA loan. I've been out for 20 years. There's no use for you to even try.
Yeah, correct. Absolutely. It's not something talked about. Like, when you go through TAPS, I don't remember anybody talking about, hey, you can go buy a house with zero down. This is not talked about. So yeah, that's a big knowledge drop. But then a lot of people
10%. 10% though. I want to focus on that. 10% is what the statistics are saying of veterans that are using that benefit
ever.
So isn't that crazy?
I honestly, I didn't know that. I've used it myself, but I'll ask a very plain question to either of you before we even proceed. Break it down to me, Barney style, because some of us, Army folks might have to read it a few more times to get it. Our brothers in the Marine Corps, we'll paint them a picture. The Air Force guys already have the advanced college course. We'll razz each other all day. But break it down to me as to what's the best way for someone who's completely clueless. I've Googled FHA loans and Fannie. I don't know what none of that stuff is. What's a daggone difference between the VA loan and a regular loan? All I know is if I want to buy a house, I have to have a lot of money, and I have to put a big ass deposit because I was told I had to put 20%. So if this house costs $250,000, I got to put in there, whatever the case may be, right? For that, whatever. That's all I know. And maybe a bank approves me, but my credit might be. What is the difference between a regular conventional loan and a VA loan?
I got it, man. Okay, ready? Now the bombs are coming, man. We're lobbing grenades. Okay? Number one, VA loan has no mortgage insurance or no down payment. That's number one. So you don't have to pay that bullshit insurance because your loan to value is less than 80 and no money down, zero, right? Okay, that's That's the number one difference. Number two, the VA doesn't have overlays on you. I just got somebody approved DP 559 credit score. They're buying a house. Okay, so lenders set overlays, lenders set rules. They put them in their box, right? The VA doesn't have a very big box. They don't care. They just say, hey, if the lender will do it, we'll guarantee it, in a nutshell. So people with less than perfect credit, we can help them.
Now, you said something there, going over to you, Clint, is on average, just to put context, what is the average down payment on the house? Because again, people might say, well, it's not a down payment, and some folks have no clue. Like, I'm sure, Clint, you've seen this, where you show somebody a house, they've done no homework, and you tell them, well, for this house, if they're not a veteran, right, because you work with veterans and civilians, and they find out what the down payment looks like, it's like, I'm sorry, didn't you think that if you were trying to buy a $500,000 house, you're gonna have a sizable payment? What's an average for like non-veterans of what a down payment looks like, just to give people a comparison of what it means? Because you could say there's no down payment, but it's like, okay, what does that mean? I was going to pay, what, $1,000? Big whoop, right? Like, that's significant in and of itself.
Yeah, so you can roughly use 10% as kind of a guideline. So if you're at that $500,000 house, you got about a $50,000 down payment.
Wow.
For that. And then I'll also couple it on what Al was just saying again, how he got that dude approved at $595?
559.
Ask 100 realtors and lenders what the bottom credit score is for a VA loan. They're going to tell you about 620.
620.
Like, they'll throw out a number. They'll literally throw it out. I sat in 100 classes, and they're like, yeah, 620. Without that was probably one of the questions on that class that I sat in with them. Well, I was just mind blown. I've done 100 VA loans, and I thought I had I thought I had all the knowledge, and was working with decent lenders, and at 559,
wow,
you got to do that. There's so much more to it. Having a great realtor is something special, but I'll tell you what, when you find a good lending group, his group is amazing, and then an awesome lender, there's so much more that they can do. And then, so roughly that 10%, man, 30 grand to 50 grand, depending on what your house you're getting into.
And that's it, and that is significant, because again, just to put it in perspective, and either one of you can jump into this, because again, the 2 points you just talked about is one, VA home loan gives you the ability to not have to put a down payment on the house. We've established kind of what that looks like, and arguably those are two myths in itself. That you need to have a 620 or more credit score is a second point that I think is another knowledge bomb there. I think that's huge, because what can you do with 20, 30, 40, 50 grand, depending on where, in the country you're buying? That's significant.
Well, and the other thing, DP, for anybody listening out there, if you put down 10%, like Clint just said, you have mortgage insurance. If your loan to value is less than 80% on a $500,000 house, you're going to pay an extra $300-400 for mortgage insurance every month for about 8 years. Yep. About 8 years is what you're going to pay that mortgage insurance on. What does that mortgage insurance do? Because some folks don't even know that, right? It's like, hey, look, I've always rented my whole life. All I know is I pay, let's just say, $2,000 in rent. And you're saying, DP, where you live, you could literally buy a house and pay like $1,800 max, depending on what we can find you. Okay, now it's $1,800, but what does that actually entail for those that are renters who don't know? It's not just you're paying one thing. There is, money going to the principal. There's interest. There's, insurance and all that. Can you break it down for regular loans and then kind of compare it against, two people paying, for a similar house, what the difference are of that payment being made? Okay, here's a fact for everybody out there. VA home loans have a cheaper interest rate than a conventional loan all day, every day. And here's why. Who guarantees a VA loan? The government. That means it's less risky if the government says, "Hey, we're gonna back this up." Okay. So, in that conventional, you're gonna have the higher rate. Like Clint said, you're gonna put down more money that you could use for something else. And if you're less than 80% loan to value, you have mortgage insurance. What that is, that's a product where the lender says, "Hey, because we're in a position that's not 80% or less, we're gonna charge you for the risk." It's insurance. They're charging you. They're assuming that you're going to go into default. That's what they're making the assumption. But on a VA loan, you don't have it. And this is another thing that a lot of people get confused on. We all don't roll rich, but there are some people who are veterans who want to buy, a $2 million home, and they say, well, I can't use a VA loan. Absolute bullshit. There is no limit. I just approved one of my good buddies, 1.2 million VA loan here in town. Wow. Zero down. We're going to get him a smoking interest rate, no insurance, no mortgage insurance, money. So there's no limit. And a lot of people believe that there is because they have a bad realtor or a bad lender who tells them that there is.
Yeah. And that's very true too, because people think they got to go do a second. So I think it's county by county, Al, is what we.
Yeah, basically there's a county level. Yep.
Denver was 590 or something.
Yeah. The average is about 550 average in the whole country, 548, 250. But yeah, there are, like in Hawaii, it's like 900 and something, or in Alaska. It changes depending on where you are. But if you want to buy, the owner of my company is working on, I think it's a $6 million loan in Florida on VA.
Wow. And I think that's a great point to bring up, because many folks think, okay, I'll use my VA loan, but sadly, because whatever your experience with the VA is, they assume the VA healthcare or a disability. Like, there's so many aspects of the VA that people don't know, and they just assume it's going to be a rinky-dinky thing. So yeah, I'll use a VA loan for the cheap-ass house down the block. Like, you can't have a nice house with a VA loan. Come on now. You get the cheap house with the VA loan because the assumption is, come on, it's a veteran thing. They're not going to really give you actually something that actually is worth anything. But there's a few things that I think, again, to reiterate to people, the no down payment is huge. The credit, myth debunked. The fact that you're not paying that PMI, you're not paying that insurance on that, again, we've just established that if I'm paying, to Clint's example, 50 grand on a down payment, that's mine. I don't have to pay it because I'm using the VA loan. Then to Alan's point, because I'm using the VA, that insurance that's tacked into that monthly payment, that's gone too. So it's two different things. Not only am I not paying, right, a down payment, but the insurance as well that goes on top of that others are paying. So same house, two buyers, two completely different makeups there. Can you talk a little bit about, before we move on, what does it mean to have a guarantor in the VA? Because folks just kind of look at it to say, okay, what does that really mean? But understanding that really you're kind of having a cosigner to a degree. Is that correct?
So the VA guarantees 25% basically of the loan amount. Mm-hmm. So yeah, that's what makes it less risky, because the lender, me, if the lender knows that no matter what, they're going to get 25%,
right, then
it makes it less risky. And that's why there's no credit overlays, because for us, if we say, hey, this guy's got a 559 credit, and the VA says, hey, we're gonna back that loan up. We're gonna guarantee 25% of that. If that veteran goes in default, we're stroking a check the next day. Mm-hmm. It makes it a lot less risky. But people need to remember that every lender sets their own, and I'm not going to get into lender names on this, but there's a lot of lenders on that got really good commercials where if the veteran calls them, minimum credit score might be 660, 680, because they set it based on their risk. Our company, I'll give you a prime example, DP. Happens all the time. Veteran gets out, goes to the VA, and the VA says, don't worry, we got all those bills, right? Go see all these specialists, and we got all these bills. So veteran had 800 credit score while they're active duty. Now they got 10 medical collections because the VA said, hey, we're going to take care of those. So their credit goes down, right, to 559. Is that the veteran's fault because he has or she has PTSD?
Right.
Hell to the no. So that's why we do these. That's why, I get these folks pre-approved, and I say, hey, you got a realtor? And they say, no. I say, I'm going to give you the best one in town. And I call Clint, and I say, here's a guy or a girl. Let's hook them up. And but that's another one of those kind of debunked myths and why things occur the way they do.
And it makes sense, Clint, because if you think about it, right, the biggest thing for me, not knowing the finance side, is, the lenders, comfort with that risk of, hey, life happens, things happen. But if they know for a fact that they're going to get, at least that, that funds there, that makes them a little more comfortable. On your side, Clint, what are some of the things, I guess, that you've seen? Because, again, just the fact that most folks would think there's a cap to the VA home loan. It's like, okay, I can only get $500,000, or I can only get in my area $300,000. There's nobody buying $1 million house, because there are veterans out there, to your point, Alan, who are, in a position to buy that. They are in a position to upgrade. They are in a position where they've been successful and they merit to buy $1 million house. But it's like, oh, the VA is not going to support that. Again, myth debunked, not knowing stuff. What are some of the things you've seen, Clint, on your side, working with veterans that, folks folks would be like shocked again to the same point as far as what they've been able to, sell by, regardless of the situation.
Yeah, so I think kind of on our side of the house, and this is very much dependent on where you're living, but a lot of people think that VA loan is a lesser loan than a conventional or something else, right? So like if I had to go get my VA loan, I don't have a chance at that house because nobody, here in the Springs anyways, we've got five military bases here. Our VA loan process is very, very strong here, right? That VA loan is almost like to what Al's saying, is a lot stronger in some cases. We do have to fight some because we know that our veterans don't have that cash, and people like to see that down payment and stuff.
Yeah.
But one of those is that strictly that the VA isn't as strong as like another loan. Whereas if I'm going to go use my VA loan, there's 20 people looking at a house, and 10 of them are conventional or whatever. And I'm going with the VA loan. I know we had in the past thought that VA loan wasn't probably as strong or as good. That's absolutely 100% not true here. You got to battle sometimes and fight for your clients to get in, yeah, but there's ways around that stuff still. And again, that's very much per city because I'm on a bunch of different groups where people like, you try to get a VA loan in New York or something, with not a lot of support for military, that's probably pretty. But very much depending on where you're at, man. That VA loan is very, very strong.
So one point that you kind of touched on there is geography. And for a lot of veterans, they've done their 20, they're retired, or they're in a place where they can relocate. One of the things that I came to realization many years ago was that my fulfillment, my happiness, my joy is not dependent on geography. And what I say to that is I'm a New Yorker. I'm from New York City. I'm down south now, but I'm from New York City. And the fact of the matter is that, it's not about a competition thing. And I'm sure you all have seen this, but if Clint and Alan and myself kind of came up together, we went in together, we're snot-nosed little 17-year-old kids. Fast forward, we're a bunch of broke old folks looking at, Clint's arms here now. Next thing you know, because of the fact that Clint relocated, let's say, to Texas, and Alan went to North Carolina, but I stayed in New York City. We all do the same job. We have the same benefits, but the quality of life, how far your money goes, is a huge part that also needs to be factored into that. To your point, where because you can get anything, you get so much more bang for your buck if you go someplace that works for you. Obviously, there's a lot that goes into that, but the fact of the matter is that VA home loan can be used in any of the 50 states. You're not subject to say, well, Alan, I can only stay in New York City, right? I can't go anywhere else with my stuff because this is where I'm at. False.
Yep. Anywhere you want to go, we're licensed in all 50 states. We do them. I've probably done loans in 25 or 30 states, and like to your point, and Clinton knows this all too well. You stick a single wide trailer in Colorado Springs, it's $1 million. You go to Alabama, man, you could buy like a sweet house, for 150 grand. So yeah, it's hugely different based on where you are. And I want to circle back on we talk about VA loans. I have a lot of conversations with listing agents, and people are always worried about losing their jobs, and all three of us have a guaranteed paycheck coming from the government. If you're active duty, I have still yet to meet anybody who walked into work and they say you're fired as of today who's active duty.
Right.
Even if you kill somebody, it take 22 years to get you through the process. Your borrowers are generally, at least as income wise, they got it, man. And it's just about having passionate guys like Clint and myself who go out and teach and educate and gosh, 10%, man, 10%.
And another part too is even another fun fact is the funding fee. If you have a rating, that also goes and gets wiped out as well, correct?
Yep,
which is a whole.
And then they had a change 2 years ago. The Navy Tidewater Act, or Blue Water Act, I'm sorry. If you have a Purple Heart, you're exempt as well.
Now, can you talk about that real quick? So again, because there's so many, it's easy to just lump it and say you're not paying anything. Let's break it down of what you're not paying. What's the funding fee on the VA side of the house if you have no rating? So again, you have access to everything we talked about, but there is something called a funding fee.
There is. So VA funding fee, the first time use is 2.3%. So the VA tax on 2.3% on that loan. So let's just pick on the $500,000 loan. That's $11,500. And that check gets cut. Everybody thinks the lender keeps that check. That check goes directly to the VA regional center who is guaranteeing your loan.
Yes.
Okay. The second time you use it, it's 3.6%.
Ah.
So it gets more expensive. So how do you eliminate it? Well, if you put down 5% or more, it'll drop down to 1.4. So it can, or 1.65, it can drop depending on how much money you put down. And that's just a fee that basically it keeps the program rolling, you know. Pays for people to do when you call up and you have to wait on hold for a day and a half with the VA. That music paid for by the VA funding fee.
Yeah,
okay?
yeah. This music is brought to you by the VA funding fee. But if you have a rating, though.
Yep, 10% or greater, you're automatically exempt, or a Purple Heart.
Now, and that's huge because, again, that's another thing where, so even if you have damn tinnitus, for crying out loud, 10% tinnitus, you just saved yourself $11,000 that would have gone into that funding fee. Because, again, you have a 10% or more rating at that point that you can, use to that, or as well to the, having a Purple Heart and being in those special categories.
Yeah, and I actually spent a lot of time talking to the older, the Vietnam veterans and stuff. Those are actually a lot of the guys who don't, and I say guys because, that was just kind of the time, but not a lot of them have a rating. And I'll tell them, like, hey, if you want to buy a home, go down and, we'll hook them up with one of the reps here in town or something, one of the resources, and we'll get them taken care of, because then when they go to buy something, it saves them money and they're being compensated for,
yes,
for their issues. So yeah, that's something that we do a lot. Try to help people, all the way around, because at the end of the day, man, it's more than about house or a loan for me. Like I don't care if I do the loan. I honestly don't. I just care that the veteran's educated and that we take care of people.
Yes.
That's all I care about. Clint knows this. I talk more people out of loans than I do into them.
Yeah,
a lot of times it just don't make no sense. Especially refinancing. Like people, everybody wants to refinance, and I'm like, you're losing money.
Right.
Like, go outside and look at that guy's Jaguar next door. You paid for that. Don't do it.
Right.
Don't do it.
That's kind of the beauty of Al too, and he's not wrong on that. He literally will walk you through and be like, man, it's just not a good idea. Percentage you could throw one out, but everybody will do a refi, right? It's just money in their pocket for something super simple. I don't know how many people I've sent Al's way where he's like, look, man, it didn't make dollars or cents to him, so I talked him right out of it.
Yeah.
I'm like, 100% taking care of vets that's all we do. And to that, I want to add to that realtor and how we talk about in other states where it may not be as easy to use a VA loan. Al can lend in 50 states. And then for you, wherever you're at, you can call me and say, hey, Clint, do you know a realtor or a veteran related to anything where I'm at? I have 3 or 4 big groups of people groups that I'm a part of, where I can literally reach out and vet that realtor for you. I can see if they have any knowledge on the VA system. If you're in a town that doesn't do a lot of VA loans, it's pretty critical that your dude understands it and can talk the VA up a little bit, because the lenders and the other realtors in town may not have any idea with it. So we're capable to just, as simple as reaching out saying, hey man, do you got somebody in California?
Yes.
I'm like, yeah, down in LA. And I'll reach out and vet those people for our vets and say, hey man, give this dude a call. 100% good. He's very spun up and knowledgeable on the VA process. So
because it's your community, it's your space. So you're going to network with those individuals. Same on Al on the finance side. I think it's powerful. So I'm going to come to you, Clint, here for a second. I want to ask a few questions because I want to move into, okay, we established some background, some fun facts. Now let's get down to what are the things you have to really kind of have checklists. All right, I hear you guys. It makes sense. I think I want to do this. We're going to go down hey, these are the things you want to start doing your homework on before you even start to do the process. But my last question to the VA home loan piece is, you can only use it, 1 or 2 times? Because you talked about the first time, there's a percentage, a second time. How many times can that even be used, Alan, as far as the VA home loan is concerned?
You can use your VA loan as many times as you want. You just have to sell the house that you had a loan on. You can own more than one house on one VA loan. You can. A lot of people say that you can't. You can. There's just certain rules, and all you got to do is call somebody who's knowledgeable, myself or any lender who is knowledgeable, and they can explain the entitlement process to you. But like I say, I've used mine. I'm on number 7.
Wow.
And because I bought a house every assignment I ever had, because I wasn't going to rent. Why would I want to rent? And at the end, all I get is a hard time about my damn security deposit because my dog shit on the floor. I done paid you $80,000.
Yep.
So come on, man. I just buy.
Which goes into equity, ownership, financial, security and liberty, and kind of looking at the other side of things where you own something, right? There are some people that, just don't know there's a difference to your point of, hey, you were there for X amount of years, and when you left, you have nothing. There's no equity. You're not selling anything. There's no appreciation, and you don't have an asset. And really, the VA home loan gives you the ability to have an asset, which is a whole nother conversation of how we need to reframe how we interact with finance and see the world. Because now the big thing is, you see all these YouTube videos about home flipping and buy it and the Burr method and do that. There's a lot of funky stuff out there, but to your point that I love how you said that is everything's not cookie cutter, right? You have to talk to someone who knows what they're doing to give you a strategy, because sometimes it doesn't make sense. So that makes a lot of sense as far as being able to use it again, because some folks may not know that. I bought a house, I'm stuck in it, I can never leave. False. You can, move on, sell, or whatever you may choose to do. But talking to someone who knows, to your point, I think is huge.
Yeah, and I just go back to like what I said earlier with Clint. You can go see any realtor you want. Like, just jump on Zillow, find a realtor. Clint and I probably closed 5 loans last week. In a town where people say, "Oh man, you got to bid $100,000 over asking price." We have not put an offer in yet since I've met Clint for anything ridiculously like that. Like, it just goes back to find knowledgeable people in your circle. And some of my favorite lenders, they call themselves VA specialists, and they have no idea what it's like to step off an airplane in Iraq.
Hello.
Because they've never been there. They have no idea what it's like to serve in anywhere, to go to basic training, to put a uniform on, to have a crap.
Pick me. So what I was saying too, and without, we don't like to name calling, but we got a lot of groups, veteran or real estate groups. I sat in on an MRP, military relocation professional certification course, right? It was 1 or 2 days, 8 hours, something. There's a room full of 55 people, 55 realtors for military stuff, right? And the first question asked was, "Hey man, how many veterans we got in here? How many people you think raised their hand in that class?" 3 people that said they served at least a day in the military. I literally came out of my mouth. I was like, "What the fuck are y'all doing in here?" And I was like, "Oops." Take that.
Whoops.
Wasn't very much for the rest of that class, but I was like, you guys literally, you couldn't possibly know what. No, just no. Go with it.
So to you, Clint, one thing for those, and I love, Alan, your transparency and kind of breaking things down like this, because again, people don't know. And again, we don't have to mention the big names. Everybody knows who they are. You call the big names that have commercials. Guess what? What funds those commercials and funds that marketing is that higher percentage and that higher money that they're going to want to get from you. So we'll leave it at that. But Clint, to your point, can you break it down Barney style? Okay, so I'm going to talk to a real estate person. I know a broker. I know an agent. What the hell's the damn difference between a broker and an agent? Because in the real estate world, there's also levels to the game. Can you break that down real quickly for folks to know when they're talking to someone and might see the title and they're like, okay, this guy's a realtor, but what does he do? To your point of vetting them, the experience, how long they've been in the game. Are they an agent? Are they a broker? Are they independent? Do they work with a group? Whatever the case may be. Can you give us a 101 of real estate for those that have no clue? Agent from broker from organizations.
Yeah, stupid easy. So they're all about the same. Like if you're talking to a realtor with the R, like they pay for that little designation, doesn't mean you're any different than the rest of them. A broker and a brokerage is kind of who you work for, or who the realtor person works for and reports to, in a sense. Then the rest of us are just realtors, but they can be like doctors, man, and get that MRP cert, CGI. Like you could have, I've seen something like 72 little acronyms behind your name. They're not outselling us. Like, I'm like, what do you do, dude? Like, go do real estate and quit trying to get these courses. Acronyms behind you. To your point, like a realtor or an agent, they're exactly the same thing.
Okay.
Broker, like on the lending side, I'd probably speak like the difference between like a broker, I think, has a little bit more tools at their disposal than a local lender or something. And maybe Al could speak to that. But on the real estate side of stuff, literally, there are some cool certs and designations that people could get, which would probably lend to some of their experience and stuff, as opposed to first-time agent. But that first-time agent isn't going to put nothing behind their name to let you know that I've never done this before.
Yeah.
And there are teams which, like I just started my team, the Veterans Home Team, and then everybody just works. It's 100% like the military, man. So a platoon or a flight or whatever that is. Those guys, we all work together and just service vets. But it wouldn't really be anything that you'll see it on my Jeep or something. You know, we class through the Veterans Home Team all over crap. You'll see it there, but literally, man, just that realtors are basically lumped in the same place. A brokerage is where they work, or two.
Gotcha. Okay, and that makes sense. And again, it just helps to give people context to understand the space. And we're going to jump to the websites to give people amazing resources. But let's do a quick kind of checklist. All right, so everything sounds copacetic. Saw the video. You guys are awesome. Clint makes me feel bad about my arms. We've established that already. Now I want to make a point to get a house. I don't have a choice. I'm going to get a free membership if I talk to Clint, or if not, he's going to put me in the chokehold. So we're going to do this now. What on the real estate side, before anything else, would you say are like, you know, I won't give it a number, but let's say, you know, top 3 things, like, okay, someone's heard this, it makes sense, I do have a rating, I have a benefit, I reached out to the VA, they sent me a little certificate, they said, I have it. Okay, what are 3 things you would say on your side, Clint, that would be like, before you do anything else, make sure, let's say, here's Clint's 3 tips or whatever they may be to kind of begin the conversation before you engage anybody?
Yeah, so that's really, really simple. You and I talked just like we're doing now. I'm like, cool, man. It seems like you want to buy a house. Your VA stuff is all good. And then that first step, which is kind of solidifies everything, and we go from there, is no kidding, I introduce you to Al. Because if we don't have, he digs deep into your financials, which is the most important thing, right? Do you have earnest money, which is that it's just a check, a promissory note that says, hey, man, I want to put an offer in on your house. It's normally 1% of that offer price. It's negotiable, but so, you know, do you have earnest money? You got $3,000 in the bank. That's not $3,000 that somebody's cashing. You're just giving it to them. We're going to take it back later at the end and apply it to closing costs, origination fees, right? So we talked a little bit about finances. Do you have the earnest money? There's a couple steps in the process of an inspection and an appraisal. So, you know, do you have roughly $5 to $6 grand readily available? So let's
stop it right there for a second. Let's say $5 grand. So just, you know, again, just to look at, because again, for all the benefits we have, make no mistake about it, it's not just you paid a deposit and moved into a house. There's going to be expenses, even to include if you got to buy furniture. Like, there's things people just don't factor in. So even as a goal, like, maybe I'm not ready right now, but I can save $5 grand, right? You know, so just to be able to say, okay, make sure at least you have something. Like, don't walk into this whole thing with literally negative 15 in the bank, because that's not going to work either.
Yeah, so that number would be between about $5 to $7 grand. It's like, hey, do you have this as disposable income right now? And then to your buy furniture thing, make talk to your realtor before you buy anything. Your lender will be super pissed if come closing time you went out and financed some furniture and now he can't close the loan.
But like, I got like literally the whole thing. I went down to freaking Bob's Furniture and they gave me a super sweet deal.
Yeah, new couches, a TV. What do you mean I can't qualify for this loan anymore?
Shit.
So talk to somebody. Like, your realtor should be super savvy on this stuff. But yeah, so those things. And then the next step, no kidding, is I send an intro text or email to Al at DP. Hey man, Al, I got this buddy DP. He's a veteran. Can you start him on a loan approval process? Because without that, we can't move forward. I can show you houses, but it's a real waste of everybody's time.
Yes.
So that Al's saying, hey man, they're good to go at $400,000, but I talked to them. They only want their monthly payment at roughly 16. So you're going to be looking at roughly $350,000 and under houses. Me and you get back together and start figuring out what it is you want, you know, where, rooms, all that other stuff. So,
but that's huge though, because even that, now you're giving me that, right? Between having this conversation, even saying, hey Clint, I don't want to spend more than $2,000 a month. That even that alone, like, where are you comfortable? Like, hey, I pay rent, let's say, you know, at $2,000, I can push it to 22, but anything after that, I'm going to be in red, realistically. So that gives us at least a framework of what to look at, because you know how it is. I downloaded Zillow, I did a search, and I see everything. Pump the brakes.
Right. And I suspect, I probably know it to be true, but like a crappy lender doesn't dig into that conversation with you. They don't, because they want to. If you're qualified at 400, that next call is to me saying, "Hey, man, they're good to go at 400." But we don't do that to our vets. Period.
Right.
Like, Al literally, hey, man, well, where are you guys comfortable? What are all? And then everything comes together, and no shit, I get the call saying, "Hey, man, 320 and under, dude. They can possibly be 325, but that's pushing." And then we start that search of everything under 320. I don't even look at 400. I don't care if you're qualified at 500. We start at that 320. We know we have a little buffer. Al is a wizard with working numbers and crap. If somebody needs to get up to 330 maybe. But we know at 320, and then we educate the heck out of you guys. our veterans to say, hey man, here's the next steps of the process. Like I said, here's $750 for the appraisal. You're going to need $500 for your inspection. These are all things that you guys need to absolutely cover you buying a house, but then that's it. And then from there, we start kind of searching.
Alan, on your side, so with that in mind, the intro text went over, right? So pleasure to meet you. Got the text going.
We were just doing one right before this meeting.
Literally 3 minutes coming in, dude.
Be like, hey, I'm jumping on the call right now.
I'm about to jump on that call. I said, me too, dude. But
yeah, but real quick though, let me introduce you to somebody.
Yeah.
What would be on your side, Alan, some of the things for those doing homework, prep work, who may be seeing this on the financial side, that you would be, like, hey, Alan's point to make sure at least you start to look into these things to supplement or add to what Clint said?
Yeah. So I think probably one of the biggest things that people need to ask themselves is, what's your ultimate goal? And the reason I say that is because every day people call me and they say, what's your best rate? What's the best rate I can get? And I always tell people, the most important thing in a transaction is to close on time. That's the most important thing, to find a house and close on time. So it's communication, brother. That's just what it is. Like, Clint knows this. I taught a class for a group in Reno, Nevada, a bunch of veterans. I taught a Zoom class for them a couple weeks ago. And then when I was done, I pre-approved 2 people for Clint at 10 o'clock on a Friday night, because they were going shopping in the morning. Yeah,
you're not going to find that with fill in the blank, on TV.
Yeah, so I just think, communication and being able to, to talk to your folks, because, to Clint's point, yeah, I can pre-approve you for whatever, whatever the data says we can do, but there's data, then there's reality. Mm-hmm. You don't want to be house broke and house poor. And yeah, there's some shark lenders who, the bigger the loan, the more they make. Fact.
And I love that, Alan, because I really, if you can, in that same thought process, take me back to 2008, because for many people, they don't realize part of the real estate crash that went on with some of those unscrupulous lending practices that are no longer happening. The fact of the matter is, and I know for a fact, we've all heard and seen it, where you had someone working, literally at a car wash talking about, hey, they got approved for $1 million house. Buddy, your mortgage is going to be $4,000 and you make $1,000 a month. How does this work? So to your point of even being realistic with expectations and not being house broke, can you expand a little bit on that? Because I think it's good for history as well, for those who may be thinking, like, I don't want to get caught like back in the day what happened in 08, because I've heard horror stories, not so much the 07, 08 situation, but I think it just feeds into that reality expectation of being realistic and not being house poor or out of your range.
Yeah, the bottom line is the VA has no debt to income requirement. It doesn't exist. So you could literally lend up to 70%. I've seen it. But again, to your point, is that smart for the veteran? Yeah, I can do that loan, and man, Clint's going to get paid and I'm going to get paid. But at the end of the day, I got to sleep, man. So that's when you have that realistic conversation with people, and you find out. I always ask people, I don't ask them how much they want to spend. I ask them what their monthly payment is. What's your BAH, man? Like, let's be realistic here. How many kids do you got?
Yes.
I walk through those things because, kids are the biggest liability on the damn planet. But, you just figure that out. And at the end of the day, like, I've had people tell me, like, hey, I need to buy for this much money. And I say, well, I guess you're going to have to call another lender then, because I'm not doing it for you. I'm not doing it. It's not worth it. So that's kind of where I would leave that one, just talking to people realistically, and I refuse to do something just because somebody wants me to do it. That's just not there's a whole lot of lenders out there who will lend you whatever you want, and what, I don't want to be the guy who caused you to get a divorce or whatever. I'll be on that Billy Madison list.
Well, it goes back to service, right? Think about it. All of us, we were all senior, given, in the military, we've served, we've led, troops, airmen, and so forth. And the biggest thing we all have seen is that brand new E1, E2, E3 who drives on a brand new vehicle, because guess what? That little car dealership right outside the base or the air base says, hey, you got a guaranteed check, you're approved. And now here comes a collection thing. And that's sadly predatory predatory lending practices that do abound because of the fact that they know, hey, he's a veteran, he has a VA loan, it's guaranteed, payday, and some of these folks will sit there and say they're veteran friendly. To your point, they've never jumped off a helicopter, they never got off a C-130, they don't know what service is like, but they know that, hey, this is a guaranteed payday here because worst case scenario, I'm still gonna get my money. And that sadly is what some people do, to your point of not saying no. And I appreciate, Clint really kind of shedding light on Alan's ability to be able to turn people away and say, no, this is not going to happen today. Like, it doesn't make sense. Because if it doesn't make sense, I'm not going to set you up for that. Yeah, we could close a deal, do a thing, but you're literally not going to be able to live in the house past a year based off your situation. And then what?
Yeah. It's definitely an interesting profession on both sides. One day Clint was he was upset with something, and I called and I asked him what was wrong, and he told me. And some of the things that we hear, it's just mind-numbing what people do to veterans. It's just mind-numbing. Like I see loan estimates all day long, and there's companies charging veterans 3 points. That's 3% of your loan balance as a fee. So a $15,000 fee. I've seen academy grads, West Point. I've seen educated people just assume, well, hey, yeah, man, I should be paying these fees. Bunch of bullshit. You should not be paying.
And got taken.
Yeah, like in a movie.
Man. So we're going to jump here to the site and show some additional resources. But I think this is great because, again, it gives people stuff. Rapid fire question before we jump over. Preferred app that people could look at. We've heard all the big names, but Zillow, Realtor, etc. What's your take on it as far as those, real estate apps?
Mine. Call me. You can use my app. But with that, if you're not using my app, then for real, that Realtor and Zillow, not to promote them, but so what happens if I go to list a house and I put it in our listing service, it immediately almost transfers to Zillow and Realtor.
Gotcha.
As you're clicking, I tell my people, if you're chilling at home, man, go ahead. I'll set you up. I do literally have an app, our listing service. So DP, if you're my dude, and you're like, hey man, here's all the criteria we want in a house. I'll put it into my app and I'll put it into our listing service. And then every morning or every night, whatever we set it to, you'll start getting emails whenever a house comes up. But then I also tell them, hey, jump on Zillow and Realtor. It's totally cool. The only thing they're really bad at is updating when they go under contract or when they're pending something.
Gotcha.
So like Amy earlier, when we first started looking for her, sending me all this stuff. I'm like, where are you getting these from? Because it's not coming from.
Right.
Yeah. She's like, oh, my mom's sending them. Well, her mom's getting them from Zillow and Realtor. And they're all pending. I'm like, pending.
Gone, done. Like, no, that's not. Let me show you behind the scene how we do it here.
I would never ever use those for like estimates. Like if you're looking on Zillow for Zillow estimate or whatever they call it, way wrong. There's one Zillow office in all of Colorado to gather data for. There's no way they have any idea what your home is actually worth inside of the city, inside of the block that you live in. So they could be off $40,000. They've been off $50,000 on homes, and my sellers are like, "Well, Zillow, that's $450," and I'm like, "Look, data. Like literally, I'll show them graphs and data. Like, dude, look at the thing.
Like that, right?
So don't ever use that for estimates. Use your realtor. Use somebody that you trust. But
last rapid fire question: what is the fastest you've ever seen someone say, "I want to buy a house and close"?
We just did one. 10 days.
10 days. Literally, in 10 days, someone's entire situation can be completely different.
Contract to closing was 10 days. That's not normal in this market, but that's my record.